better, and I can show you where I get a lot of my information, and that'll give us the opportunity to discuss things together, because you'll notice that my PowerPoint predominantly responds to how to do the benefit of doing reports and getting information from the reports that we run. So I will wait a couple more minutes. It gives me a chance to kind of go through my PowerPoint a little bit.
Does your camera work?
Yeah, let me turn it on here. I don't have much of a background.
That's fine. What, you don't have your super cool daddy background like that? Oh yeah, see, you do.
Yeah, you do.
There you go. Okay, you can go ahead and go back. And
I was trying to be nice to you guys and let you not have to stare at my ugly face for that period of time, and give you guys a little bit of a reprieve. You'll have to excuse me as I'm in my alternative uniform tonight. Getting ready. How many people are familiar with the Oshkosh Air Show?
say that again.
How many people here are familiar with the Oshkosh Air Show? I'm
currently in Oshkosh, Wisconsin.
Oh,
yes,
yes. The EAA, Experimental Aircraft Association. Yep.
I'm here
Been there
for
many
flying
times.
this year. So I'm here working the air show. So part of the Civil Air Patrol contingency that's out here doing work with the cadets.
Good for you.
I absolutely love coming here. This is my what's the word I'm looking for? My emotional reset for work. I get to be here and get to see happy things instead of constantly seeing bad things. So let me go to my share screen. I'm going to open up my share screen here. Let me know if are you guys seeing my screen here?
Yes, sir.
All righty, let me move this toolbar a little bit so that it's in a different spot so I can see what's going on down here. Is someone recording this, Commodore Harshfield?
Stand by. You are in, you're still in presenter mode. You're not in presenter mode. So I'm seeing there you go.
Yep.
And
If are you guys seeing my screen here?
yes, sir. Recording is in progress and we are live on YouTube as well.
Excellent. Somebody's got their microphone in the background, so I hear myself on about a 3-second delay, so it kind of throws me off. We can get that settled in.
You are you're still in presenter mode. You're not in presenter mode. So I'm seeing you. There you go.
Do me a favor, if you guys can just everyone go out there and mute your mics. There we go, much better. All right, so tonight we're going to talk about the importance of leadership training and mentoring as a result of some of the information that was provided from the national staff that I had gone to, as well as some of the reports that were received. And I kind of want to talk about, so what we're going to talk about is increasing situational awareness of current member training status, where we are, and also want to spend some time talking about the Auxiliary Leadership Development Program and talking about some of the important training elements that are associated with the Leadership Development Program, as well as the direction that the Gold side is taking in the Leadership Development Program. The Coast Guard has identified a lot of different things in the auxiliary leadership and the quality of auxiliary leadership.
Hey guys, something's wrong with the audio. You're double talking.
If you guys can all do me a favor, just make sure everyone's muted, because I keep hearing my voice coming back in the background. Then we want to identify pathways to earn OXOP. We have a lot of members that are working towards our OXOP, and I think it's important that we continue that.
Paul, it's double talking. It sounds like there's a radio going on also. Hey guys, something's wrong.
There it is. Somebody cut themselves off there.
Everybody's muted except you, so.
Okay. So, and then want to acknowledge the importance of mentorship and talk about those flotillas and showing the data of those flotillas that are doing a mentorship program versus those that don't have an identified mentorship program. So, current basic situation. There's that voice again.
Okay, that stopped.
Okay, Norm, I hear your voice in the background along with there it goes away. Okay, OXOP has significantly increased. We've had a lot of members get involved with a dramatic increase in our AX2 membership, which is really cool to see. The biggest concern that I'm having with that is how well are these members actually absorbing the information and the data that's being received. I don't want to discourage members from seeking it, but we do have members that are walking in the door into the auxiliary and within 6 weeks getting their aux-op pin. I'm not sure they've had an opportunity, especially during COVID, to truly understand and develop a level of awareness. So work with your new members that are coming in the door. If there's, I don't want to dissuade them from taking the classes, getting them involved and getting them directed in there, but just be careful understanding that, maybe getting into a actual face-to-face person course and getting out on the water and getting out on patrols to support their aux-op training so that they truly understand and fathom the data that's going with them. Some of the more technical classes like communications and weather and patrol, I'm pretty sure that if I was to take a new member that's never gone on a patrol or ask them a weather question now that it's been a couple of days or a week or two after they've taken their exam, where they actually retain that information. Because again, I'm not so much about interested in them earning the pin, but rather being knowledgeable of the information that makes that person wearing the aux-op pin identify as a leader in the auxiliary. Training opportunities have increased. We have a virtual delivery now for the flotilla leadership course, AUXLAMS, AMLOC, as well as OLOC. And this allows more members to have access to the training. And when we start talking about the auxiliary leadership development program, it's really important. We start looking at the opportunities. We've had several flotilla commanders and division commanders not push forward the applications for members to take AUXLAMS and AMLOC because they were traditionally holding positions that did not qualify for that level of training because there was a limited amount of funds. So if you weren't a active flotilla commander, they didn't want to put you into LAMS. If you weren't an active division commander or an elected division officer, usually you didn't get into AMLOC because it took out some money. The online delivery allows for a no-cost delivery for this training to go out to all the members. And so it's really important that when a member that's a district staff officer or a flotilla staff officer or a staff officer at a division level, all division level staff officers are eligible for AMLOC. And so encourage them. All district staff officers are eligible for OLOC. So encourage them to get into those programs. All right. And like I said, these courses tie directly to the auxiliary leadership development program. So it's kind of important that we get that going. One of the things I also want to talk about is AUX Corps training and BQ2 course. Those completions are still far below within D11 South. They're far below the national average. In fact, when it comes to bringing our members up to BQ2, our BQ qualification after joining the auxiliary, we're third from the bottom. And that's something that tells us we have a very large mentorship problem. We have certain flotillas that bring in members, and I'm not going to mention specific numbers, but 22 members came in 2019, and only one of those actually completed all their requirements to become BQ. Of that 22, 19 of them have been disenrolled, with an additional, I think, 19 or 20 people coming in. So that was kind of a large rotating door, and I want to thank Leslie Pelosi for helping to point that out, and she kind of really played a very pivotal role in helping me identify where some of those issues are. The biggest point when I spoke with the individuals that were involved and trying to reach out to some of those folks that were exiting or had not done their training, they said no one ever stepped up to help them. There was a complete and total lack of mentorship, and their inability to understand how to go through and navigate through the programs directly led to their lack of completion. There are certain members that are just here and they're happy to be paying their dues and collect their ID card. But at the end of the day, if they're going to join the auxiliary and we're going to try and get use out of them, it's important that we get them to that BQ status. So one of the things you'll notice here, the graph on the right, is the member trainings by hour. 2020 had one of the steepest declines in member training, yet it allowed us to do the most amount of training in a Zoom environment. We had a lot of training opportunities that were missed out on. And then when you look at some of the data, for example, the red line over here on the right is District 13. You'll notice that their hours increased in 2020, along with District 17, and I think 14K remained relatively flat. you'll see a trend in certain districts that took off. It's because they identified the importance and the value of doing their training. They stayed engaged with their auxiliaries and again, maintain that level of mentorship. And when you go pull the other reports, you'll see a commonality where those districts have had a general increase in their performance. So District 13 was one of the only districts that did not have a decline in coxswains and qualified boat crew. Participation in C schools obviously has been down because of COVID. We have had a difficulty in getting our members into C schools, but several of those C schools now have moved into the virtual environment, which has provided us additional opportunities to get more people involved in. As I talked about AMLOC, OXLAMS, and OLOC, we really need to start working, getting those members into those courses, engaged, and putting them into those opportunities for that training. The decline in leadership training coincides with the declines in all areas of the auxiliary. So as members are not getting trained in leadership development, are not participating in those C schools, the hours, the number of individuals that are dropping off, the number of VEs are dropping off, and you'll see the operational readiness was impacted with a decline in boat crews, coxswains, vessel examiners, program visitors, and our public education hours. So you could see is we're not leading the folks, we're not stepping up and identifying new opportunities, our hours are dropping off. And we have to do something to try and stop this decline. As you can see here, look at the different graphs. Boat crew steadily declining, coxswains is steadily declining, vessel examiners are steadily declining. You can see each of them, with the exception, again, going back to some of those leadership units, you're starting to see the number of boat crew increased. District 11 North did a boat crew academy during their COVID time and just pre-COVID, and we're able to qualify additional folks in calendar year 20, even though they were shut down in their operations because they went and did winter training. And that additional 20 or 30 coxswain or boat crew that they had coincided with that uptick you see in their boat crew qualified personnel. They have not had an opportunity to translate that to the coxswains, but they're intending on taking those individuals they trained as new boat crew in calendar year 2021 and start working on coxswain training. So they're hoping to see that same uptick. If we can maintain those, or if they can maintain those coxswain and boat crew academies and then do the same thing for their coxswains, they'll be able to have more effective boat crew personnel to go out and execute the missions for the Coast Guard, work along with the Coast Guard. And then again, finally, when you look at their vessel exam numbers, again, when you look at 11's leadership and you go look at what 11's done, there is an uptick even during the COVID 20 year. They were able to maintain their level, and they were doing virtual vessel safety checks and vessel exams and turning in hours for that. All right. So one of the biggest things to talk about, just from a conclusion of situational awareness, is the auxiliary, and you'll notice these are just numbers of the Western division or the Western districts, but you'll see it nationally. That same decline has occurred in most, not every, but almost every district. So we're in the middle of a decline. COVID-19 is not the reason for the decline, because you can see that decline had started long before COVID-19 had occurred. Despite the impact of COVID-19, we did learn some lessons when we translated to the online environment. We got more people engaged, more people involved. We had an opportunity for more training in those districts that wrapped their heads around it. And new technologies that definitely launched opportunities. And I think it's important for us as elected leaders that we look at opportunities that we can seize to do more training. Our auxiliary aging membership must embrace this change. I've had some conversations with folks that are having some difficulties with this, and I understand there's some fear and some apprehension working with technology. But I can tell you right now, there's multiple staff officers. I can tell you, like me, I'm not much of a Zoom person, but Commodore Horsfield has played an integral role, and I can't thank him enough for helping us do the things that we're doing. He was able to get all the classes we did for the May training weekends, and we got it all posted up on our YouTube site. And I'm hearing more and more people asking for these recorded classes to be posted so that they can be shared with their membership. So we are getting our message out, are being heard. It's just important that we continue down this path. Younger members don't participate in the traditional learning platforms that we have. So we have to be we have to be adaptive learners when it comes to how we deliver our training. Embrace the idea that a lot of our younger members have different goals in the auxiliary than some of the older members, and their training paradigms are very different. they are more apt to receive something in a Zoom format that they can do on the weekend, or sorry, not on the weekends, but on the in the evenings after they come home from work, so that they can still have their weekends to be with their family members and then do some limited training as they go, so they're not impacting their work-life balance. The Auxiliary Leadership Development Program was identified and created as a collaborative role identified by the Commandant that our current leadership was ineffective. The Commandant had felt that, and the terms that had been used at the national level was our yacht club mentality, and elected leaders were not always the best leaders for the auxiliary. They were the most popular in some cases and were easily elected, but were not visionaries when it came to driving the auxiliary programs forward. And we lacked a level of diversity, not just in ethnicity, but a diversity in thought, a diversity in behavior, a diversity in the way we did business. Now, the auxiliary is not keeping pace with the changing missions of the United States Coast Guard. And we can talk a lot about the different paradigm shifts, but one of the things they were talking about is the Department of Transportation officers are starting to retire out and are being replaced by the Department of Homeland Security trained officers. And what I'm talking about is in 2001, the Coast Guard went through a dramatic change post 9/11. And as the Coast Guard left the Department of Transportation with a predominantly marine safety and going out with a mission of saving lives as a search and rescue organization, they transitioned into a more militant, forward deployed, actively engaging with enemies, for lack of it, and became a more combat oriented organization. That changed the way they thought about the auxiliary. That changed the way that we were presented in their ideas. Those younger officers are now becoming 05s, 06s, and future, command officers as flag officers. And we need to recognize that they look at us in a different light. We need to identify what are the needs that they need us as their auxiliary, and mold ourselves to become, as what the Commandant likes to say, ready, relevant, and responsive. We need to be ready to execute the missions that have been put out to us by the Commandant. We have to be relevant, understanding what is our role, and most of our roles haven't changed much. We're still recreational boating safety, but we also need to be able to recognize that we're supporting the boat side in different ways with things like aux chef and marine safety programs, and we need to be responsive to the needs of our parent organizations, responsive to the needs of our boating community, responsive to the needs of the public that we serve. And one of the easiest ways I talk about this is when you look at the program visitor program. We have to create displays, and we have to just create the ability to transmit information to younger voters that may not necessarily want to stop in and pull a pamphlet or read a pamphlet to put in their hand, but rather a QR code that they could zap on their phone and at their leisure at home, read on their iPad or read on their electronic reading devices, because most of the time these younger folks aren't reading printed material anymore. That saves the auxiliary a lot of money in print costs and gets our word spread out to a more wider brand community. And identifying, if you could get a poster put up at a simple location with a bunch of QR codes that link to different pieces of information, and the national staff is working on this, it really helps in being able to get the message out to more voters. The Leadership Development Program was designed around our current training programs used by the Gold Side, and it's focused on your specific level. So we have training specific to the individual member, which is level 1, flotilla, which is level 2, level 3 is division level, level 4 is district, and the national staff and any of the folks on the national level and Commodores are at level 5. It's centered around the 28 leadership competencies of understanding the importance of leading self, leading others, leading change, and then leading the Coast Guard. And as you go in these ideas and understand, so you have to first be able to be a self-leader, a self-motivated individual before you can then lead others. And as you start leading others, you start recognizing the importance and the need for change, leading the change within the organization. And then after you develop and change within your local organization at the local level, you can take it up and change at the next higher level of leadership that you may potentially have. Level 1, as I said, obviously focused on that level general member knowledge. It's making the average auxiliarist understand the importance of what they have to do to be a functioning auxiliarist within the flotilla. Not necessarily doing more outside of the flotilla, but just being a functioning auxiliarist in the flotilla. How to turn in their hours, how to apply for a mission, how to do all the necessary things to function and do their job. Again, it's an introduction to the competencies of the U.S. Coast Guard framework, and it's based on completion of BQ2, Aux Corps training, administrative procedures course, the flotilla leadership course, and the effective leadership course put out by FEMA. Level 2 then effectively prepares you to be a flotilla staff officer all the way up through a flotilla commander, in addition to being a branch chief or a branch assistant at the national level. Those kind of training requirements is completion of level 1. OXLAMS, which as you well know is a great leadership on management program that is put out based upon the Coast Guard's LAMS course, in addition to taking a course from FEMA in decision making and problem solving, supervision, as well as developing and managing volunteers and understanding those dynamics that go into developing and training and leading a volunteer. A lot of times volunteers, they come from different backgrounds and they have different leadership mentalities. When we're all at a normal workplace, we're all usually working with similar minded individuals that are usually doing the same job. I'm a fireman, I work with other firefighters. We're all kind of think along the same lines as firefighters. So leading us, I can understand what needs to happen. 2, as a fire captain, I'm employed and everybody around me is employed, and they have to do what I tell them to do as a company officer, or they're no longer going to be getting that paycheck and getting employed. In the auxiliary, we're dealing with volunteers, and what may be a high-speed, low-drag firefighter working with, and I'm not trying to put down any other specific career field, but let's say a librarian or a doctor or a lawyer or whatever, they all have different ways of doing business and different thought processes and different things that trigger us and give us motivation, give us incentives. And again, we don't have that financial incentive because you don't need the auxiliary to support your mortgage. So it's really important we understand those differences. And OXLAMS is a great way to help learn how to talk and understand and communicate in a language that everybody understands. Your level 3 is your division level, and very, very few folks have this. And yet division is what anybody understands. Division commanders is probably one of the most important roles. You serve on the district bridge and you lead everybody at the flotilla level. And we have very, very few folks have completed that. So level 3 obviously is around becoming an effective division commander. Focuses on long range goals and multi-year planning, helping you understand that you got to learn to identify what you're going to do after you're out of office. As well as develop awareness of local factors for relevance and responsiveness to local community stakeholders, voting authorities. Obviously focused at those division commanders, vice division commanders, as well as staff officers and department chief or division chiefs at the national level. It completes training consists of completion of levels 1 and 2, AMLOC, and the FEMA course Leadership and Influence, which talks a lot about how to influence others and encourage partnerships. Level 4, which is the district level, focuses on district level development, leadership, and training, which focuses more on strategic levels, such as strategic goals and long-term vision. DCAPs, DDCs, DSOs, and deputy directors are highly encouraged to participate in this level. And obviously it completes of levels 1, 2, and 3, and the completion of OLOC. And then the Capstone Leadership Development Program, which is the level 5, designed for our Commodores, looks at the auxiliary as a whole and identifies how we work within the Coast Guard and how we work with other boating safety organizations and non-government organizations, how we fit in the big picture on a national plan or in a large regional area. It has a lot of emphasis on strategic goals and vision with, like I said, focus on working with other organizations and evolution of our organization as a whole. And these are obviously for those individuals that wear stars or potentially going to be wearing stars, such as our chief of staffs, directors, and individuals that are currently wearing eagles on their collar. Those training requirements obviously is 1 through 4, along with ASOC, and anybody who's involved in ASOC knows it's a 24-month program. It's not any easy completion feat in and of itself. I have had a chance to talk with Rick, and he keeps telling me, and along with some other folks, about the amount of effort that has to go into the completion of ASOC. And I can tell you right now, it's based upon the same senior leadership development program that's put up by the Coast Guard that Coast Guard senior leaders go to. So here's kind of like a continuum of how that training plays out. So it's going to have, as you can see, the leadership and management here on the left, to appointed, elected, and works for AMLOC, which is your district commanders. And you can see a lot of times people, were like, I didn't know as a division commander, a DSO, or more importantly, as a staff officer, I have an opportunity to get into AMLOC. Likewise, same thing for OLOC for any directorate chiefs or individuals that are involved at the district level as a district staff officer. You can get into those courses along with ASOC. So it's kind of a neat little thing to pass on to folks. Why are we in this program? Well, Currently, we're dramatically trailing other districts. We are also one of the, I want to say third from the bottom when it comes to the amount of folks that are getting trained. Only 19 members are district-wide have completed level 1. 9 of them have level 2, 7 have level 3, 2 have level 4, and as of recently, now 1 has level 5. We have 2 additional that are on track to complete their level 5, which is kind of pointing out we have a lot of folks have a lot of way to do fill this in. We have over 1,000 members and only 19 of us have completed this type of training. And the last thing we need to ask of volunteer is more time of them and more opportunity for training. But we have to understand that we have to be leaders and understand what we need to do. And you know, from my personal perspective, going through the MLOC course, which I'm currently in right now, which is the last requirement I have for level 3 and level 4, I am learning that I was missing things that I should have been doing as at a division level and certain committees that needed to be done, managing finances. Oh, recording stopped.
It appears that Chris,
We lost Chris.
we lost him. So
Okay.
if we can stand by a minute, he'll be back and
Yep.
he'll get the recording going.
I have a question, please.
Yeah, go ahead.
Hi, this is Eric Murillo.
Hi, Eric. How you doing?
I'm all right, thank you, sir. My question is there a program for mentorship for someone who wants to earn their aux-op pin? Or wants to, is there somebody?
There is no identified mentorship program. Not to say that they're not working on it right now, but there isn't one right now.
Okay,
The best thing to do is to get somebody who already is an aux-op to
yeah,
sit down and walk them through. I can tell you right now, I'm working and I plan on talking with several of my staff officers and developing a training program where we're going to have a lot of the in-person classes to get them through some of those difficult courses, such as patrols, weather, communications, some of those classes that, you know, those traditionally closed book courses that have some very detailed information. If we
Yeah.
have some good instructors that can get into that stuff, like I'd be more than glad to teach weather. I mean, that's my undergraduate.
okay,
We're back recording it. That's my undergraduate training. So if I can teach an aux weather course for somebody, and I plan on doing that, it might be able to help teach it in a way that people can understand it instead of such a high level technical level, which kind of makes it difficult and almost daunting for certain individuals to get into that course.
thank you.
So, all right, now that the Commodore's back on and we're recording again, I'll pick up where I kind of left off here. As auxiliary letters, we need to lead the way. We need to complete our levels, encourage us to do the same. And moving forward, I'm not sure if the Commodore, I can tell you on the national staff side, they've been making it very clear to us, the gold side is looking to making this a requirement going down the road to hold office. Obviously, if we're to do that right now, we're so underprepared, but I can guarantee you, you know, the gold side has identified a lack of professionalism within our leadership and a lack of professional knowledge. I'm not saying that they don't think we're good people, just the opposite. I just don't think that we have necessarily the tools to do the job. We're not aware. One of the biggest mistakes is we don't know what we don't know. And as I'm going through these courses, I'm learning things. I'm recognizing things that I should have been doing that I thought I was doing a good job. And I'm starting to realize I was actually not doing the right job. And I created, one of the things I did is I changed the way we received reports from our staff officers. I very quickly identified there was a lack of communication between our district staff officers and our flotilla staff officers because our SOs weren't collecting the information in between the two and transmitting it down. And that broke down a communication, resulted in a lack of awareness when it came to the May training days. It's led to some of the breakdown of knowledge that went into the lack of performance, the 40% of folks that went REYK with vessel examination. So, and instructors. So these are all that communication. By changing the way we do business, it helps improve that. And so that's been my number one goal. And I only learned that because I did these courses. So kind of in wrapping up in this particular area is it's a tiered leadership development program that's focused on developing effective leaders. It's obviously, like I was saying before, it's created after the Commandant's direction when he identified deficiencies in our leadership. And it's an important tool necessary for us to make our leaders better and more effective leaders. That's helping them hold office and do the jobs that need to be done while in office. And, you know, the Coast Guard leadership demanding change in our current leadership and elected leadership training. They're recognizing that we need to do better. And as you heard our new OTO, training is something that he takes passionately. And I'm anxiously interested in meeting up with him and seeing areas where we can try and launch new training programs to better serve the Gold Tide, as well as better serve our membership to become the best effective Coast Guard auxiliary that we can be to our customers, which are the general boating public, our membership as a whole, and the Gold Tide. So OXOP development, and I think this is something you were wanting to get into, Eric, was kind of how to get people into their OXOP and get that going. It's evolved over the years. It used to be when I first joined the auxiliary, you had to attend the 7 courses. It was a very difficult time to go through all that level of training, and it took a lot of effort. You had to go through 7 week, sometimes month-long courses to get all the necessary checks off. And I'll be honest with you, I never finished it. I only got part way, and I only got through a couple of courses. And it was only just until just before they got rid of the proctored exams, I finished it. And now the proctored examinations are gone, testing's become very easy. There are some differences between those that are in the original AX versus AX2. AX members had to do the 7 core courses. AX2 was after the course was changed to identify and respond to the different missions and leadership development that needed to happen with ICS electives. There was a lot of focus on incident command system electives because the Coast Guard had identified a major deficiency in the qualified members to support Coast Guard missions. The fact that we've now gone to a proctorless testing mode has allowed this pathway to become even easier, and there is a pathway to actually do this without ever having to do an in-person course. So we talked about it before, the 7 points. You still have the standard traditional 3 courses: weather, seamanship, and communications, which are very technical courses that take a little bit of time. And like I said, it would be beneficial to us if we were to have, once again, in-person or at least Zoom courses where we go through this information and help provide it in ways. And if there's a need and a desire, which I sincerely hope there is, we'll get into that. In addition to the leadership courses, so you have the flotilla leadership course, along with LIAMS and AMLOC. All 3 of those are authorized to be accepted for qualification. So you can do flotilla leadership 100% online, along with weather, seamanship, and comms. So you get the first 4 points right there immediately without ever taking or stepping into a classroom and without ever speaking to an instructor, just opening up a test, scoring a 90% and passing. The last 3 points come from elective courses. So courses such as incident command system, getting ICS 300 and 400 will get you a point. And then completing MSEP, marine safety, and several other operations courses, along with additional traditional courses such as patrol. Because you can do patrol and MSEP now, which give you 2 points and 1 point, which is the remaining 3 points at home, again, open book digitally. You can do those courses, finish flotilla leadership, and then do the other 3 traditional courses, all closed book at home or open book at home in front of a computer. You never have to step in front of a classroom. You never have to step in front of an instructor. And you see on the sample pathway on the right-hand side, it is very easy for you to do so and never actively do any training. And that's why we're able to get auxiliaries that walk in the door within 3 or 4 weeks of joining the auxiliary. They're already OXOP. The benefit to that, it shows that we have motivated members that are joining the auxiliary with tremendous interest and desire to train and develop themselves. We just need to harness that and continue that encouragement. Don't try to slow it down, but tailor it so that that information is absorbed, learned. There was a time when you look at a person wearing an OXOP pin, you knew that was an auxiliarist that's been around a long time. It pretty much can answer most of your questions that had to happen. And they were the quote unquote, the PhD of the auxiliary. Slide here. So mentorship. Effective flotillas that have great mentorship programs do well. You know, on a reference to one flotilla that's regularly recruited members, but disenrolls them, as I talked to you about it before. And it's if they come in, you get them interested, you hand them an application, they go through the process, and then no one ever talks to them again. That member is going to drop off. Meanwhile, we have another flotilla that recruited 10 new members. You know, 4 of them earning their OXOP during COVID restrictions. And also, not only did they earn their OXOP during the restrictions, they actually understood and retained that information. And all 10 of those members made it to BQ status in under 6 weeks. National looks at the 6-week mark as the traditional benchmark. from the time an auxiliary comes in the door till they become BQ. That's 6 weeks to complete their BQC course, get their auxiliary core training knocked out, and get their boating safety course out of the way. If we're doing regular programs, it should not be a biggest problem. And if there is a direct correlation between mentorship and retention. Those members that are properly mentored and spend time being guided through the program are more apt to stay. The flotilla that brought on the 10 members, the 4 new OXOPs, already has members that are looking at becoming elected officers, already looking at holding staff positions, and are moving up in the organization, both at the flotilla as well as now looking at the division to get involved. Members, who are mentored are more likely to remain in the auxiliary. And the best part is, once you get them going, I kind of go by the concept of, learn one, do one, teach one. Learn the subject, that's their entry level. Then you get a chance to actually do the job. And after you've done it for a little bit, get them involved in teaching. So one of the best ways to learn a project and really master a project is to teach it. Get that newer member that's been in a year that doesn't have a student yet, get them involved as a mentor. Ask yourself, does your flotilla have a mentorship program? Every flotilla commander should have received the GAR, the flotilla GAR report. If you did not get the flotilla GAR report, let me know and I'll resend it back out. You can also find the flotilla GAR report on the National Membership Training page. That is a opportunity. Now, I highly encourage every flotilla commander in your vice, as well as every division commander in your vice, to sit down and fill out your GAR score. Go through that and gives you the opportunity to see how prepared are we and how healthy we are as a flotilla. And if you do those honestly and answer those questions honestly, you'll probably find out you have a lot of areas for improvement. And that helps you kind of look back at that thing. And one of the biggest areas they talk about is mentorship. And when you do that, and you do that with you're mentoring your vice commander to be the next flotilla commander to fix those problems. If you sit down with some of your senior staff officers and have them review it with you, you're having a chance to mentor them to become the next elected leaders. It takes time to complete courses. It takes time to track progression. It takes time to identify pathways to success. But if you sit down and you work on a one-on-one level, you're going to be able to identify how quickly do people complete courses. And that's where the ability, and I was kind of hoping we'd have Chris Mather on board to help teach the class. And I'll have to kind of work with somebody, the next DSOIS. Pulling reports is kind of important, and I can go through some of the reports that I can show you on my screen. I'll try and pull them up, and we'll kind of do it a little bit at the end of this and go through some of the reports I already pre-generated for you. But if you can track the progress and identify pathways to success for individual members, you're going to see your flotilla production increase astronomically. And lastly, as I said before, we have to engage with our members more than ever. We can't just be in our crystal palaces and expect that younger student that's coming in the door. All I can say is if you have kids that are in school today, you start realizing that these younger learners are being spoon-fed courses and spoon-fed knowledge. I hate to say it, but they're coming in the auxiliary acquiring that same level of spoon feeding. So we have to take the time to engage with our members to get them involved and spend some time helping them out. They will become self-sufficient. They will become very, very effective, but they have to get past that initial phase, right? Who do you want to have to be your effective mentors? First and foremost, you need to find individuals that have excitement and passion in the auxiliary, positive attitudes and similar interests. I can tell you right now, we all know that member in the auxiliary. It's been around forever. They're extremely knowledgeable. They're full of great thing. They're their DSO or their SO or FSO MT, but man, they're negative. Everything's wrong. Everything is negative. And you know what? That's probably not the person you want to hook up with as a mentor. You need to find that person that's got that positive attitude and is focused on finding a reason to say yes. All too easy. It is easy for us to go back and go, no. We need to maintain that attitude. If we want to be progressive, we need to find a reason to say yes, because no will just turn people away. And understanding that there are age differences that have cultural differences. Some of those younger millennials, they don't know what it's like to have to use a beeper and wait for a telephone call or have to wait for a snail mail order to come in down the line so they can go deal with something. They're used to the immediate response. They put out a request, it's immediately responded, and their interests are dramatically different. Folks, age 40 and above right now are most likely more willing to make sacrifices to serve the auxiliary than a member that's 30 and under that's suffering from, well, not suffering, that's a bad way of putting it, but that has this attitude of worrying and concern about that work-life balance, where they're more focused on what they have in their home life than they are about their work life. And if you work around individuals that are younger in the workplace, you'll see that a lot. And don't be afraid to find a different mentor. If the mentor that's working with an individual person is not getting the mission done, maybe you need to find a different mentor. Just because that person's been in the auxiliary the longest time doesn't mean they're the best mentor. Find that person that's going to be able to click with that younger member that we're bringing into the auxiliary. Okay. Going back to those numbers, I like showing data and reports that we pull off our national statistics. And you can see right here, operational assistance in the Coast Guard has been on a steady decline almost everywhere. You look down the line. There was a little bit of an uptick in 11 South in 2019 as we got Aux Chef up and running that got killed off by COVID. But you know what? These are little things. They all show us. You just look at those drop off. It does. But prior to COVID, 2016 to 17, 18, 19, those lines were still declining. It's important that we stay involved and engaged in that. Do you have any questions? Someone's got to have a question. I did a lot of talking for the last half hour.
Wayne Sailing, Flotilla 4-3. I do have a question. If eventually, if this is leadership development education is going to be a requirement, and I fully expect it from the active duty side, what happens if individuals who had been former prior service, especially officers, and they've had their basic branch and command and staff college and war college education done, would those be counted as equivalent for this type of leadership education?
So that was a question I asked because I had some of the same stuff as a former officer myself. And I was kind of like, why am I having to take some of these courses when I did this very same course? I did LAMS and I did all when I was, in the Coast Guard. And I very quickly identified that once I got into that course, some of the stuff was very auxiliary centric. And so they're not letting us do that kind of stuff anymore because we are being very auxiliary centric. So they're requiring you to retake the course again, and now they're not giving any prior service credit. Did that help answer your question?
Yes, thank you.
Any other questions out there?
Yeah, Paul, there was, this is Mike Fiamingo. There was a question on the chat
Sure.
from Dwight Dutton asking about documenting the leadership levels.
Okay, so great. That's actually been a very common question. So let me get you out of this screen, and I'm going to stop my share for half a second here. Then I'm going to start a new share. I share my regular screen here, right? Share screen. You guys can see my screen now?
No.
It's coming on.
Yep.
It's back to the old screen. It just says questions.
And now
Okay,
you're back
trying
on
to-
your PowerPoint.
what I'm trying to do is share what let me take this off here. I want to share my regular screen here. Back up here. Pardon me for my technical lack of expertise.
When you hit the share button, it'll give you a choice of what you want to share, and then you want to hit your desktop.
Desktop. Inbox, empty PowerPoint, my slideshow. Search. So it's not screen, it would be. Wait. Let me get this out of here for a second. Share screen. So if I hit screen with that, is that gonna give you my screen?
That should give us the screen, your screen, yes.
So if I open up if anything pops up inappropriate, I'll apologize in advance.
No, if you haven't started the share yet.
Okay. See if you guys are seeing the Coast Guard.
Nope. Okay.
You see the
All right,
national-
that's the national website.
Okay, see the national website. So you come over here down into where it says training, click on training. We'll slide down over here to where it says leadership development. Log in, plug in my personal information here, log in. So you have to go, it's a member zone information. And where it says member certs completed, you can download this right here, this spreadsheet. This is the only place they're currently registering it. Ox Data 2 has not been, there is a ticket to add it to Ox Data 2 going forward, but that information has not yet been placed in the system. So what they're trying to do is track it in a way that anybody can do it. So any member can come to here, come look at the member training certificates completed. And once this file opens up, you just come over here to master list. You can, you'll notice it's by district. What I like to do is I'll come up here, highlight the whole thing.
Paul?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, that's showing who's currently in the system as completing it, but I believe Dwight wants to know about there's a form they have to complete and submit.
Oh, like, okay, so this is those who completed it. There it is. So if you are, you do have to fill out the form. The form is located right here in leader level 1 or level 2, whatever the specific level is. All right, and then you go down to where is it here? Isn't there this one?
Certificate. There you go.
There is leadership certification. So what I was finding out is a lot of folks I already have level 1, and the problem is they didn't fill this form out. So you fill this form out, attach proof of core training, leadership competency test 1, your APC, your flotilla leadership course, and your FEMA certificate. You take all this information, you scan it, and then you send it to me. I will then send it up to the director of training, the TS director, and they will then send it into the chief director's office, who will then send back your certificate through the chain of leadership from the chief director's office in DC. Did that help answer the question, Mike?
I believe that's his question. I'm just reading it.
Okay. And if you want to see who's passed, you just got to go to that one point in member certs. You can plug that in, and that'll show who's completed and who's done what. So those are the two ways. One's to send a request in. The other one is to track and see if it's done. And they process those awards once a month, usually the last week of the month. He'll process them, and he just does them that one day. He'll knock them all out. He'll get a bunch of emails. I personally forward those emails back to all the members when they get their award. And if I remember, or I can identify who their FSO MT is, I'll also send it to their FSO MT and their SOMT. So hopefully that gets it out to folks.
Thank you for that explanation.
Anyone got any more questions? Please, now's the time to ask. I'd like to try and help as many folks as I can. And by the way, please feel free to call me. Or send me an email, paul.j.saba@cgoxnet.us, or my phone number, which is in Ox Data. Go in there and call me. I'll be more than glad to help you work through things. Any other
I
questions?
have a quick question, Paul. You had
Sure.
said that they're typically processed on the last day of the month. If someone sent one in a couple months ago and they never received any reply, how would we go about trying to track down where the paperwork went?
Okay, first, one of the first things you can do is check and go back to the member search completed site. Like I was showing, see if your name is on there, and if it doesn't show that it's completed, shoot me an email, and I will track it down for you. Did that help you?
Yes, thank you.
Logging into my Ox Data 2 real quick so that you guys can see what I was talking about. Oops, previous. Okay, so I'm going to show you what limited experience I have in running reports. Okay, with that said, you're going to see how horrible I am at doing this stuff. Hopefully we'll get a chance to kind of go through some folks and teach a lot of folks different things and get information. So what I suggest you do is you log into Ox Data 2. This is kind of how I do things right now. Click into more, come down on the left hand or right hand side, and it should say reports. Here it is, reports underneath files. You click on that. And it's going to take you to the reports program. Over here is a bunch of already pre-created reports that someone's already done the work for you. So District 11 training status report created by Leslie. So that helps us do a lot of my training stuff that Leslie was doing for me. You can turn around and you go through them. So let's take something that's not used by one of us. You can come over here to the qualified vessel examiners, the list here for the division. He created this report for his division, but he's put it out there. All you got to do is come over to the edit. You edit this report, which allows you to open it up and take a look at the data. Right? Obviously, this particular portion, you go to his filters. He's filtering it for units that start with 07005. So obviously for District 7, right? You just come back in here, change it to. So if I want to look at District 11 South, I can just change it on here, apply that. And it pulls up the reports I have for my division, who are my qualified added folks, and I can kind of look at stuff in for this one particular flotilla. You can kind of see how it works out. So 11.7 and 11.11, these are my currently qualified. And we did have a hiccup in Ox data that took 2/3 of our members out. They had completed the VE course, so a lot of these numbers are done, but you'll see how we dropped off a lot of VEs because a result of people not completing their course. You can do that for any one of these pre-done reports. So all you got to do is go back to the filter and then run the report. And so try and find which report best fits you or best supports you. And that's helped me out a lot. If you spend some time, don't say, discard. If you spend some time going through these reports, you'll find out most of the things you need to know. Someone's already created, and you have all these reports. You have, if you go to the all reports and all folders, you'll see reports are broken down by districts and divisions. It's kind of helpful. You get a chance to see things and just go through and just find the one that best fits you. Cox and task tracking, instructor hours. All you got to do is change the report hours from 01307 to whatever you want to make it. Does that help anybody here? That's about as much of a report training class as I can give you based upon my limited training and experience. The other thing I do is I spend a lot of time pulling the reports out of the district training and measurements. And so what I suggest everybody do, kind of like when you're doing that GAR report, come over here to the directorate for what is it, performance measurement. Click on here. Again, go into your member report. And you can look at all your district trends, your flotilla analysis. You can run and pull all these reports that are pulled out. It gives you a lot of information about your unit so that you can have an understanding. What I suggest is look at the report and take an honest, hard look at what you think your flotilla is doing, how effective your division is. If you sit here and you think, oh, we're doing really good, we're fine just the way we are, and you look at your trends and you look at your analysis and you start seeing things. So if I go look at some of our trends reports, here. Sure if it's not here. Here's our finger flotilla analysis. So this is the flotilla analysis reports for 11 South. It gives you a breakdown of the total number of members. You can see where your memberships are. Look at all the different indices and how they measure things out. You can go through stuff and take a look at your flotilla performance. So how effective are we doing? And it explains what some of this information is. But this is, let me go back. I want to get, not from flotilla analysis, I want to district trends. These are, you can see, this gives us, this row is getting a lot of those screenshots I was showing you earlier about division trends. And you can see how our numbers drop off and see how it's steadily been declining. And then of course, 2020 killed us off. Battlecraft, we were doing well, kind of dropped off in 2019 and then really had to drop off in 2020. Kind of a steady decline here. Our marine dealer visits kind of not really done any major change. We needed to improve that. If you look at public education, it's been a fairly steady decline. Prevention and response, our pilot numbers are all over the place because they are very few. You know, with 16 total pilots in as the high point, you can see where those numbers drop off. Just one member jumping in, 2 or 3 members jumping in, jumping out. Those numbers are very, very chaotic. But if you look at our surface operations, look at that dramatic drop off. 11 North identified it and started implementing their training program. You see those numbers kind of came up, but they're the only ones who did it. Same thing with their Cox's big drop off. And you kind of go through these things, and they have these reports all the way tooled down to flotillas. So you get a chance. I strongly suggest spend some time looking through these reports. What you're trying to do is glean the big picture of what's happening within your flotilla, what's happening within your division, and kind of see what's going on. Are we meeting our goals? Are we meeting our things? And set benchmarks and goals to challenge yourself going forward. Hopefully this gives us the opportunity to become the best auxiliary that we want to be. With that, I'm going to open the floor to any more additional questions. If not, I've got nothing else to say unless anybody else has something else they'd like to talk about. Another chat question here. It was. Okay, so I guess I answered your question. Anybody have anything else?
Hey, Paul, this
Yes,
is
sir.
Rick. If you could stick around after the meeting, and also Commodore Harshfield, if you could also stick around, please.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys. With that said, thank you very much. I'm done with tonight's presentation. Thank you for coming and spending your wonderful Sunday with us. I hope I didn't waste too much of your time and we're able to give you all the answers you need to these questions and concerns.
Thank you, Paul.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody,
you,
for
sir.
coming today.
Thank you.
Well done,
Thank
Paul.
you for a
Thank
great
you so
training,
much.
sir, guys.
Paul, outstanding presentation, and would probably like to have even a copy of your PowerPoint.
Absolutely. I'd be more than glad to share it with you.